Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's episode, I'm just going to be talking a little bit about forgiveness. This has been something that has been heavy on my heart. It's been something I've been working on in my own life. And I know this is like a cliche thing. We've heard about it, we get it. We talk about this so commonly. Everyone's like, oh, it's a process. You need to forgive. We understand the importance of forgiveness, but I think a lot of times we don't realize how this can kind of like play out in our lives and how we really should go about forgiving. I think a lot of times it is one of those things in which we think it's like a one and done. But first, I'm going to pause this video because I'm currently cooking up some vegetables and I don't want them to burn. My gas stove is up a little too high. So we'll be right back on that note. Okay, so I'm back. So first, I want to start off by saying that, especially, let me make sure my mic is on because, girl, okay, the mic is on. So I was thinking about forgiveness, especially as it relates to like relationships and stuff. Because one, I want to say this. I think that collectively, we are just really pushed into relationships a little too early on. Honestly, I think that like when we talk about relationships, it's always seen as using another person as a conduit to like your happiness, to your self exploration, to, understanding who you are. And I just think that as a society, we gotta really chill on the pressure to be in serious relationships. I think that serious relationships sounds like what what the word is, right? Like it's a serious relationships, which oftentimes is gonna probably require some level of maturity that I just don't think that oftentimes we're ready for. I think a lot of times when it comes to relationships, the reason why we get hurt is because we're really forced to be in something that's way too serious, that's just completely not anything that we should be doing, at this stage in our lives. And I think this is also how like, really good friendships and things like that, relationships in the platonic sense, they don't last. We end up like lonely, dealing with loneliness and things like that because we've had really good friends in our lives that we were just so eager to make a relationship with. So that's just one thing I would say about relationships. But, seeing news articles sprout about people's past and things like that, and don't get me wrong, right? I understand that, people, hey, you know what I mean? I'm definitely not someone who's saying, you know, whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not negating that. But I do think that from my own personal experience, let me say this. I have been a victim. I've been a victim. And, I was at a point in my life where I wasn't seeking vengeance per se, or at least not in every situation in which I was victimized. But I was in a space in my life where I was really seeking for someone to hear me, for someone to understand. And, what I found was that I really stayed stuck in that space and it never really allowed me to grow. And so, what people don't realize, especially in regards to being hurt and things like that, you have to realize that there's a season in life for everything. God tells us this is a season for weeping and there's a season for, you know what I mean, for laughter. And so it's like you have to get to a point in your life where you're like, listen, hey, I've been hurt. You know what I mean? I've been down and out. I've been did dirty. But you know what? I'm not going to stay here. You know what I mean? And I think to go out in the world and dig up your past and try to get vengeance over someone, it's like carried shame. It's like you don't know what this person is dealing with in their lives. And so here you are thinking, oh, I'm not going to let them get away with it. And then you end up taking on all the guilt and shame. And that's kind of what happens when we become the people who hurt us. When we turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to hurt you like you hurt me, then it's like now you carry everything that this person is carrying. I can honestly say from having a little slip up in my life where I was teetered into that a little bit, it changed me. It changed me because I was then carrying the guilt and shame. And then God blessed me with like revelation and understanding, new perspective about this person and the situation. And I'm just like, I felt so low, because it was such an attack on my character. It wasn't who I was. And I was really identifying with this pain and shame over guilt that, I didn't even really cause, but it was because I was trying to seek vengeance over somebody else. This is why God tells us that, vengeance is his. It's not for us to be out here trying to be the vindicator, and I think like when you talk about, hurting people, and especially now that you're at this age of understanding and you're older and things like that, that's tough. You know what I mean? Because it's like now you're at this point in your life where you got families, you've got, you know what I mean? You're really blessed. So, to go back into your past and to dig up certain things, that's tough. And I think that, to be honest, what we don't really talk enough about is how we are a resilient people. And I'm not talking about color. I'm talking about human beings, Homo sapiens. We are very resilient. We can get through anything. I mean, You think about, childhood trauma, right? We overcome so much as adults and as people. I don't really know why we seek to go back into the past and binge things and, bring up things. And, it just holds you back in life, because it's like at the end of the day, what's done is done. And one thing I can tell you is that you just don't know what that person is carrying. You have no idea what they're dealing with. You don't know their portion. I think a lot of times we look at people from the external. Oh, they living it up. They doing it like this. They doing it like that. You have no idea. You have no idea the silent battles. You know what I mean? Trust. You have no idea. And I don't think that we need to be self-deprecating, as people who have, platforms or whatever it is you're trying to do in your life. I don't think you need to be self-deprecating to let people know that you were also inflicted. You know what I mean? We all have our stuff. I think that it comes to a point in time where it's like you have to mature as a person and you have to realize that nobody's life is perfect. And you need to really like live by that, apply that, study it, digest it, eat it up. You know what I mean? Because that's real, you know? So forgiveness is for you and it takes time, but it's something that you have to, you know, I believe that you'll forgive and you'll get on that path of forgiveness when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I mean? When you're sick and tired of being hurt and distraught and just wrung out and just like miserable. You know what I mean? Because being into the past is depression, right? They say that depression comes from worrying about the past, and because it's things that you can't change, right? Depression is a feeling of helplessness, whereas anxiety comes from being a little too far out in the future. You're anxious because you can't control what's getting ready to come your way. You know what I mean? But it's just like if you would just learn to just stay present, stay grateful, stay humble, then you'll be fine. But I just think that too often we just it's really being led by the media, common narratives, things that we should do. Let's tell your story about this person, and why do I need to get up here and say anything? I don't need to get up here and say anything. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be the person who kicks this person when they're down because they probably already been down, and they you know what I mean? I'm not going to do that because then that goes against everything that you really are. You know what I mean? And now you're going to be stuck dealing with that when you finally do get to the point where you forgive and you release and you're like, wow, I can't believe that I went out and, I did that same thing to somebody else that they did to me. I can't believe I went out and caused the same pain on somebody else. You know what I mean? They caused to me. So it's just like, I think that we have to, I'm gonna set my coffee down because I ain't gonna drink while I'm on camera. I think that we have to get to a point where we have to, you know, find beauty in our strength and our scars. We have to get to a point where we realize, man, I've been through some stuff. I got this beautiful heart. I'm tough as steel. You know what I mean? God is with me. I'm strong on the inside. I'm courageous. You know what I mean? I have an inner strength now. I have an inner sense of understanding. My life and the trajectory of my life is beautiful and my life is robust and it's abundant and it's great. And you know what I mean? I think we have to get to that point where we start to see the beauty in our scars instead of trying to patch our wounds. And I think this is where grace comes in. I think this is why we need God because, God tells us like, hey, I'm going to be your healer. I'm going to be your redeemer. And I think when you're left to your own devices to kind of lick your own wounds, that may take a little bit longer. You know what I mean? So I just think that, there comes a point in time where it's like when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you'll be ready to forgive. And you got to get on your path and whatever that looks like for you, take your time. But this thing with culture and society today of like digging in the past and seeking vengeance and whatever the case may be, you got to learn to let bygones be bygones, in your own life, in real time. And I use culture as a reference because we know that unfortunately that just kind of becomes a totem pole. And I talked about this too on my podcast, how when it comes to society today and how for a lot of people we're not going to reach our quote unquote destinies, right? Because I think as a society, this is what we do. We pick apart people who are gifted. We pick apart people who are gifted. We pick apart people who contribute really cool things to society, people who contribute to our progression, and whether or not it's true or false, whether or not, certain allegations, whatever the case may be, one common pattern that we have in society is that we pick apart people who we then put on the pedestal, right? We pick apart the most talented. And I was talking so I asked her, I said, you think we'll ever get another LeBron James? And, I said, Kobe and all of these really great entertainers and people who have been in the past who have done really great things and they, profess that they're legends and things like that. I said, do you think it was prophetic? Or do you think that we'll just simply never get another, quote unquote icon? And she said, no, I don't think we will. She said, because society today, we don't have the discipline. We have a lot of distractions. And that is so true. We do have a lot of distractions, but I also realize that because of our because of social media and our very close proxy to celebrity, people are starting to realize that I don't want this fall from grace. So I don't think we're ever going to get another, great anything, to be honest, because I think that we are very much aware as a collective how we pick apart the most talented, and we're reaching and we're seeking to tear them off the pedestals that we put them on, not because of we don't like hierarchy, not because we don't like classism, but because we ourselves want to attain that position. And we realize that if we obtain this position, all of the criticism, all of the judgment, all of the scrutiny that we send out is going to come back to us. And we realize that we don't want to have that fall from grace. And so I don't think that people are really going to, they're not willing to trade places, right? They much rather be on the end where they're dishing out the criticism, they're talking badly about other people, they're judging other people versus actually become a doer. Because to be a doer requires humility. Because to be a doer, the cost of being a doer is humility, because when you're doing things, you realize how hard it is, and you realize that it's not easy, and so that kind of silences you a little bit, talk is cheap. So that's all I got for you guys today. Be a forgiver. Be a forgiver in your own life. Be a victor in your own life. Be an overcomer. Step into God's grace and what it is that He has for you, and be someone who forgives and moves on, and live life, and have confidence in your future, have confidence in yourself, to know that you can get through anything if you are currently in a season in your life where you're hurting, and understand that in life there are seasons. Ecclesiastes 3:3, a time to mourn, a time to weep, a time to laugh, and a time to rejoice. And a time to mourn. So understand the season in your life. God bless. I hope you guys found this video insightful. Peace.